Indoor air can be 100 times more polluted than outdoor air. And so it's very important that we protect ourselves and our families.
For listeners who have not heard our previous episodes, give us a quick overview of your background and what inspired AirDoctor, this device sitting between us.
Yeah, so I'm Helen Cristoni, and I'm Senior Vice President over at AirDoctor. And personally, I've had my own health challenges where I've had to really pay attention to my, environment, the air that I breathe, the water I drink. And so I have a passion for wellness. And 6 years ago, I reconnected with the founder of AirDoctor, Peter Spiegel. And when I learned about air quality, air purification, I really am so passionate about educating about it. So I think that it's a very important topic. And this air purifier right here, AirDoctor, is really a medical grade air purifier that's meant for consumer use. And it really addresses a bunch of concerns that many people have about their indoor air quality.
So most people say, well, wait a minute, I know the air quality out there isn't any good, but I've got all my windows closed in my house, and I've got we may talk about this later, I've got a modern house that's an energy efficient house, and I've got no leaks in my windows now, I'm sealed up tight, I'm safe in my house, right?
Wrong.
Oh, no.
Yes. And so let's just talk about it. So what happens is, these modern houses have HVAC systems. And what the HVAC systems do is pulling all the air from the outdoors inside. And then once outdoor air comes inside, it's virtually trapped inside the box of your home. And in addition to that, everything around us can be polluting our indoor air quality. And so things like furniture, lighting, our gas stoves, cosmetics. Every time I blow dry my hair, my AirDoctor goes off and is angry with me. So cleaning supplies, candles, and some of these can be really, really bad for our health. So indoor air can be 100 times more polluted than outdoor air. And so it's very important that we protect ourselves and our families.
Yeah, I was listening to an expert on the wildfires in LA, and how could these homes, which many of them are stucco on the outside, how could they just, literally explode and go so fast? And he pointed out that we forget that almost everything in our homes is made out of petroleum, which is gasoline. And it is literally like, throwing a match in gasoline in your home. And, it struck me, he's absolutely right. And your point is exactly right. This stuff, our carpet, our clothing, our cosmetics, whatever, are leaching basically these toxins. We know they're toxins. There's a sign when you pump gas, don't breathe this stuff, right? And yet, we're surrounded by it. And we don't realize that how much this has changed in the last 70 years.
Yeah, and I think that it's super important to know that it can really impact your health. And so many people have, they suffer from allergies, and they are just sensitive to air pollution, whether it's indoors or outdoors.
So what do you recommend in a whole house filter? What's this going to do?
Okay, so I think it's so important with air purification that people understand that air purifiers don't purify through walls. Like, you need to have an air purifier in each room. And a lot of people think that I have an HVAC system. So when you're in your HVAC system, you really want to make sure you have a very high quality MERV house filter. So something above a MERV 13, like at AirDoctor, we have MERV 14 filters, which is the best quality filter you can get for your house.
Now, wait a minute, let me stop you right there. How would I know if I have a MERV filter? Do I look?
When you look online, there's different ratings for MERV quality. And so just like our AirDoctor here, we have an ultra HEPA filter. Right. You want to make sure when you're looking for whole house filtration and your filters for your furnace filters, HVAC filters, that you're looking for a MERV 14 or something above a MERV 13. It's very important.
And that will be on like my filters that I put in my.
Yeah, they're rated, and so a lot of these things, all types of HEPA filtration, they're rated, and they have to be third-party tested and validated and kind of scored, as is our air purifier. So I think it's important that people educate themselves on different levels of filtration, and our AirDoctor right here, it removes particles down to 0.003 microns. And so what that means, like if you go get an ordinary HEPA filter, they'll only remove particles down to 0.3 microns. So that's 100 times difference. So making sure that you have an ultra HEPA filter is very, very important.
Now, wait a minute. I have a nose, and that I have been taught in medical school is a really good filter. What say you?
Well, unfortunately, the stuff that we have in our air, there's particles called PM 2.5 particles. And they're very, very tiny particles that can break the blood barrier and get into your bloodstream, your brain. And it's these tiny particles do the most amount of damage. And so big particles like dust, allergens, things like that are going to make us uncomfortable. But it's the tiny microscopic particles that break the blood barrier that really can have a lot of harm to our health.
I had the pleasure of doing some of my training in pediatric heart surgery in London, England in the mid-1980s. And every day, my kid's wife and I would blow our nose, and literally soot came out of our nose. When I was recruited to come to Southern California in the late 1980s, my partner, Leonard Bailey, said, I don't trust air I can't see. And because we are still very polluted here in Southern California. Yeah. So I hear what you're saying. And maybe I filtered out the soot with my nose, but it's the stuff we really can't see that's so much trouble.
Yeah.
Speaking of stuff we can't see, because everybody is obviously concerned with the wildfires, what are we dealing with that's so bad with these things?
Yeah, I think that it's been so interesting over these last few weeks, especially at AirDoctor as a company. We were fortunate enough to have disaster units in nearby here, about an hour or so away outside of Los Angeles, that we were able to bring into the community right in the beginning of the wildfires to address the initial smoke that was in the air. So, an ultra HEPA filter will deal with smoke, but as the fires progressed and the disaster ensued, we initially didn't realize, 2 cities were going to burn. And so when you think about these whole cities that have burned and what's burning in them, you have pharmacies, you have auto shops, you have grocery stores, you have everybody's homes, cars, gas tanks, petroleum. All this wildfires in the forest are one thing, and they're bad enough as it is, but when you have 2 complete cities burned down, we will be learning about the impact of this for years to come. And there's some doctors over at Harvard School of Medicine that says that these fires here in Los Angeles is an environmental health disaster that's going to unfold for the next few years. And they're comparing it to post 9/11. And so I think that we're learning what's in the air, and I think we'll continue to do so. But one thing that I am happy that people are talking about is volatile organic compounds and gases and benzenes and all these really harmful things that are in the air. And I feel like the public really has a new awareness for the need for carbon filtration when it comes to air purifiers. And that's one thing with AirDoctor Pro here. It's very important that people have a very thick, dense carbon filter in their air purifier to make sure that their family is protected when they're inside.
Thank you for donating and contributing all of these air filters, because it's, as all of us know, it's a mess, and it's going to be a mess for a very long time. Not to mention the fire retardants that have been sprayed on all of our hills and all of our homes. And you're right, it's going to take years for this mess to dissipate?
You know, Dr. Gundry, since I've been with AirDoctor over the last 6 years, I think that it's so important that people at home in their emergency kit make sure that they have an air purifier, because since I've been with AirDoctor, we had the Canadian wildfires in 2023. So I was reading an article that UCLA put out, and smoke from the Canadian wildfires affected over 122 million people in 2023. And then just before the Canadian wildfires, we had the East Palestine, Ohio chemical spill.
Yeah.
And 16 states were affected by that pollution. And then you think about here now in Los Angeles, I mean, you know, just the damages from these fires, it's like at 250 billion and counting. And these are just a couple of the things that have happened over the last few years that I've been with AirDoctor. And so hundreds of millions of people have been affected by bad air quality. And the thing about it is, when something happens and a disaster happens, a chemical spill, a tornado, when you go to your hardware store to pick up an air purifier, their 5 units they have on hand are sold out. And Amazon, if you go to try and get one delivered, because of shipping delays, you can't get one for a week. So what we saw here in Los Angeles, I mean, we had people lined up. We put 20,000 units into the community within days. And so the massive need and demand really outweighs supply. And as a company, we're still effectively trying to get as much air purification in the community as possible. So really important that you have an air purifier so you can create a safe space for your family in the event of an emergency.
So that brings up a point which I see around town. There's a lot of mask wearing now. Is there a place for a good quality mask? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for people that are outside and when they're sending their children to schools, it's very important they have a very good quality K95 mask. And this is the time that we should be wearing them. You know, it's really important. And, you know, when you see, like when you go to industrialized countries like China, where they do manufacturing and there's all this off-gassing and pollution, everybody's wearing masks. And we don't know what's in the air right now. You know, so very important that you're protecting yourself and your family.
Yeah, I used to do mission work in some of the remote areas of China where it's still actually all coal burning, and you would be in one building and you literally could not see the building next to you. And, you know, everyone was wearing masks. And now, of course, with COVID, we said, gee, you know, those people maybe were pretty smart wearing masks, but they were worried about pollution, which is still a huge problem in China. Yeah. But you're right, I was in New York City during the Canadian wildfires, and the pollution in New York City from the Canadian wildfires, it was, I mean, impressive. And you're going, that's a long way, you know, from the Canadian wildfires, but these things drift dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, and we're, you know, in Southern California, we're used to having wildfires. We're not used to having city fires. This is new to us. And I think that, unfortunately, when they had the fires in Canada, I mean, the whole eastern seaboard was affected by this. Like I said, 250 million people. That's a lot of people that were affected by smoke. And, you know, we've all been the TV commercials about secondhand smoke. You know, I mean, I think about that, like secondhand smoke kills. We really don't know what we're breathing in this stuff. So it's really scary.
A lot of people say, well, maybe there's safe places. Like we know that airplanes tried to increase their air movement during COVID. Gyms are obviously, in theory, a notorious breeding ground for mischief. Yeah. What's the real story about those places?
Yeah, I mean, hair salons are a really big offender because anytime you put heat to hair with product in it, it's off-gassing formaldehyde. And that's one of the reasons a good carbon filter that has potassium permanganate, it's one part of the carbon, is so important because it removes formaldehyde. And but I think that, you know, over the last few years, it's been great to see airlines, car manufacturers really embrace putting good HEPA quality filters into establishments. And I think that now that consumers are getting more savvy, that, you know, they demand them. And so I love to see when I go into a gym or a yoga studio or my hair salon, they have air purification. In some hotels, they're offering wellness rooms where the rooms have purified air, purified water. And I think as we, during this time in our lives here in the United States, I think that with our just awareness about air quality, I'm happy to see people really getting on board. And what I've learned after these wildfires here in Los Angeles is now parents, mothers, and so many people are demanding air purification for their kids, their nursery schools, their libraries. I mean, we have been inundated with phone calls from moms making sure that their kids are safe and they have air purifications in place. So I think with awareness and education, like coming on here and talking to you, I think that the air is in public spaces is getting better. But what's really important is that we're safe at home.
You had one interesting story that you just brought up. I have a loaner car because my car is in the shop, and it's actually a 2025 model, and I won't say who it is. But I was actually driving from Palm Springs to Santa Barbara through the Altadena fire. Mm-hmm. And, the warning things were coming on, and it was dense smoke. Yeah. And as I approached, I hit the recirc button on the air conditioner. Now, I've had other cars. I've always done that because we have a lot of fires here in Southern California. And I was shocked that I did not smell any smoke in this car. First time in my life. Normally every car I've ever had, oh yeah, I'm going through smoke, but I'm okay. This time, there was absolutely no smoke, and it was dense smoke. Yeah. Yeah, so you're right. They paid attention, I guess.
Yeah. So, my car too, it shows me that it's purifying out PM 2.5s. And to your point with the Altadena fire, I was evacuated from the Eaton fire myself. And it was in the morning. And I kept asking my husband, we had no electricity, of course, because they turned it off. When's the sun going to come out? When's the sun going to come out? And he's like, the sun is out. And it was pitch black outside. Yeah. And so really just it's so overwhelming, the smoke pollution that really gets set off during massive fires like this.
We've had you on the show to talk about your companion product, AquaTrue, your advanced water purifier that uses reverse osmosis to deliver the cleanest water possible. Is there an equivalent in air purification for achieving the top tier health benefits?
Sort of. So there is a HEPA standard. And so HEPA filters are tested to something called the HEPA standard. And there's also something called CARB certification, where you have to, every year you need to certify your products to a CARB certification for your HEPA. But carbon filters are not regulated. And so it's very important when there's absolutely no regulation for carbon filters and air purifiers. So number one, it's very important when you're looking for an air purifier that it has a dense, thick carbon filter. And some manufacturers, they spray carbon on it. They have a thin film of carbon to pass it off. So it's really important that you're able to look in the machine and have a really, really thick, at least a 1/2 inch thick carbon filter in your air purifiers for volatile organic compounds.
It's intriguing to me that your founder, who we've also had on the program, was really the largest manufacturer of air purifiers for general consumer use. So, Costco and Walmart and big box stores.
That's right.
And if I'm telling the story correctly, he said, I can do a whole lot better, and it's my mission to do a whole lot better. Is that advertising, or is that what's going on?
No, not at all. Our mission at AirDoctor is that everybody has the right to pure, clean air that's backed by science. And so it's very important to us as a company that we do third-party testing and validation on all of our products. And we're very aware of all the other products that are out there on the market, and we test them also. And so it's very interesting to see, like, a lot of companies, they need to get under a price point to be able to, survive at a big box establishment. And they just keep pulling all the efficacy out of these air purifiers. And I always love to say, AirDoctor is called AirDoctor for a reason. You really have efficacious, very well third-party tested air purification. Our AirDoctor Ultra HEPA filters can capture 99.99% of particles down to 0.003 microns.
That's a lot of particles.
Yeah, and that covers viruses, the tiniest of mold spores, a lot of these gases with our carbon filters that we're talking about here. So it's a really, really great unit. We're really, really proud of it.
I see a lot of patients who we do mycotoxin testing.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of patients who have come from a sick house. And it's actually fascinating to me, the number of people who believe they're in a safe house or even a new house, and yet they test very positive for mycotoxins. Yeah. A lot of them black mold. Yeah. And so what you're saying is this will actually get mold spores.
Yes, mold spores can be as small as 0.1 microns. So this pulls down to 0.003 microns. And so luckily, mold spores are fairly large. Yeah. And this will absolutely remove mold spores from the air. And what I love about AirDoctor is it has this indicator light, and it's blue right now. But what AirDoctor does is if something's amiss in your air quality, it ramps up, it turns on, and it goes to bright red, and then it cycles through your air to clean your air. So pretty quickly, you learn the behavior in your home that is really affecting your air quality. And it really gives our customers such peace of mind that they know when there's something wrong with their air, and then they can deal with it.
Now, you're also launching a new model, AirDoctor Pro. What?
So we have AirDoctor Pro, but it's actually an AirDoctor Pro 4000. So it's a beautiful cylinder unit. It comes in matte black and an off-white, and it really has a lovely aesthetic. And so they're on pre-order now, and we're really excited for this launch.
So what's different? Just the look, or?
It's a tall cylinder shape. It's about the same performance of this. It's really easy to move around. And so it's on casters, so you can kind of roll it here and there. And what we've really tried to do, there's a lot of cylinder air purifiers in the marketplace that are really hard to kind of take apart, clean. And so we've put a gorgeous door on the back where you can easily remove the filters from it. And the great thing with all of our AirDoctor units, whether it's our small units that are designed for bedrooms, our larger units that are designed for larger spaces like living room, open concepts, is that they all work the same. You are going to be removing 0.003 microns. They're going to have the same dense carbon filter technology. And so we really have something for everybody.
I've asked this question before, but I think it's worth asking because obviously budgets are different. If I only had one room to put this in, where would I put it?
In your bedroom. So we as humans are very big air consumers. We're breathing 3,000 gallons of air a day. And when you think about that, you want to make sure you're breathing the cleanest, purest air as possible. So we spend most of our time in our bedrooms.
Good point.
And what we find and what our customers tell us, when you have an AirDoctor in your bedroom, you'll get a beautiful night's sleep. So the bedroom is the most important place.
So what do you say to somebody that, I'm going to go to a big box store and I'm going to get a big box air filter. This is really cool and I appreciate this is really cool, but I just need something.
Yeah, all air purifiers are not created equal. And neither are the HEPA filters that are in them. So I think, like we were talking earlier, it's very important that you're looking for something that has an ultra HEPA filter in it that removes particles down to 0.003 microns. Because a lot of these other air purifiers in the market, their HEPA filters only pull out 0.3 microns. And that's not even capturing PM 2.5. And we know that PM 2.5 particles that are happening with tornadoes, hurricanes, these fires. It's such a problem currently, and unfortunately, I think it will continue to be so. Those break the blood barrier, and the smaller the particle, the more hazardous to our health.
Filters are expensive. Expensive to replace.
Yeah.
I know, particularly in water filters, sometimes what looks like a bargain ends up not being a bargain because you're replacing the filter so often.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in lifespan of filters?
Yeah, so our carbon filter in the unit, we change it every 6 months. And then our HEPA filter, our ultra HEPA filter, we change it every year. So you're looking at 2 filters a year to really make sure that the life of the machine is extended. And then also, we were talking about this earlier, like if you have dogs at home or something like that, you can easily vacuum the top filter to make sure you're extending the life of your filter.
And does it, I have one in my office, but does it tell you when to change the filter?
It does. We have a couple lights here on top, one for our ultra HEPA and one for our carbon. They're super easy to change, and it lets you know when to change them.
So it's kind of like a check engine light.
Totally, your check
time
engine
for
light.
service.
I really like that. I'm going to use that. It's like the check AirDoctor light goes on.
Well, because I don't think I've been in a taxi yet that doesn't have an engine warning light flashing, which is another story.
It's true. And I mean, this is serious stuff. Breathing polluted air can really have serious effects on people's health. And, cancer, respiratory issues, heart disease. There's so many things.
Endocrine disruptors. Yeah, hormone disruptors, fertility. You have people having young girls that are going through puberty early. You have women going through menopause early. And this is happening in our society. So clean air, pure water is really foundational for health. And so I think it's so important that people really take purifying their air seriously for their family.
More amazing episodes just like this one. Watch now.
Even if you take it home in one of those containers, transfer it to a real plate, not a plastic plate, to cook your food in your microwave. It's an easy thing to do, and it'll save you the exposure.